Welcome to Old Nurse Knows. I'm Claire Kettler, Old Nurse, here to offer practical information about health, resources, and encouragement for you to improve your own physical, mental, and spiritual health. I've been privileged to be with families as their baby is born or their loved one is dying. I've seen frightening injuries and incredible recovery. I spent years studying both medical and nursing topics. Own your health. You can be in charge. Hit the subscribe button. Feel free to check out my website, nhnursehealthcoach.org. Leave a like, leave a comment. I'd like to hear from you. Today's topic is disaster preparation, episode 10. Today's quote is from Exodus 12:39. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. The Israelites had to hurriedly leave Egypt, where they were being held as slaves, and they didn't realize that they should have prepared for their hasty exit into the desert. The story from beginning to end is recorded in the Bible in Exodus. It's an incredible story, and I recommend reading it. Why should you prepare for a hasty exit or a disaster? You and I are fragile, and that we require water, food, clothing, and shelter in order to survive. What if your water and food supply just vanished? Do you have warm clothing and sturdy footwear in case you must make a hasty exit to where you can get food and water? Our world has become unstable and disasters looming for a myriad of reasons. What if your water was no longer supplied by the pipes into your home or apartment due to a disaster, accident, sabotage, war, or government determined rationing program, and you were unable to get bottled water from the store for some terrible, strange, and frustrating reason that you never could have imagined? Will you have to abandon where you live because you have no water and no way to get water? If you live nearby a source of water that you could carry back to where you live, how will you carry it and how much will you need? How far will you have to carry it? Water is pretty heavy. Waterborne germs can cause serious illness and death. Norovirus causes diarrhea and vomiting and is very contagious. Giardia and Cryptosporidium are both parasites that cause diarrhea. And then Campylobacter is a bacteria that causes diarrhea. Clean, safe drinking water is very important, and diarrhea can kill. How will you make your water safe to drink if you're separated from pipe supplied drinking water? What if your pipe still supplies water, but now it's contaminated? Without adequate clean drinking water, you will die in a few days to about 1 week. A water filter is a simple solution that you can purchase now that might be a lifesaver. There are several small, simple models available online or in outdoor stores that can filter out the tiniest, most harmful germs. Boiling water is also an option, but water must be usually boiled at least 2 minutes at a rolling boil in order to kill germs. And you obviously will need some type of fuel in a pot to boil the water. Filters may not filter out chemical pollution, and boiling does not eliminate it either, so keep that in mind. In a disaster with water to drink but no food, you could live for weeks to months. But what if there is a more severe lockdown or a disaster, such as a war, electricity grid shutdown due to sabotage or government order? You were unable to get to the grocery or buy prepared food or get food delivered to your residence, or stores were not receiving food to put on their shelves because the supply chain broke irreparably. Probably one reason that so many people are unprepared for disaster leading to no water, no food, and no electricity is that they don't believe it could happen to them and now. How could there be no electricity, water, or food? Prepare for the worst. 80% of the US population lives in some type of urban environment that has water delivered to them from some city or urban system. The rest live in rural areas where private wells are common, but usually require electricity to get the water out of the well. What's your backup plan if you don't have any electricity to run your water well pump? If you have a backup generator or a solar array and plan on those items running the water pump, what if your backup fuel becomes unavailable? Or an electromagnetic pulse attack destroys your solar array and you can no longer run your well pump. This again to most people seems impossible and not even worth thinking about. We don't live in a third world country. Almost everyone in the US has had continuous access to electricity and clean water throughout their lives and through many generations. Also, what's your source of heat? If you had no heat for some reason for an extended period, do you have warm clothes to wear and blankets until the heat is restored or the weather warms? What if the electrical grid system is destroyed near you by accident, sabotage, or war? No power for anything, heat, cooking, or light. What if natural gas and propane are rationed severely due to war or pipelines are destroyed for some reason? What is your plan for staying warm and cooking? Wool is warmer than cotton, and both microfiber polyesters and wool stay warm when wet, while cotton does not. Better to plan ahead. No one expects to be affected by an earthquake, a tsunami to strike them, a volcano to spew molten lava blocking their road, a forest fire to trap them, or a house fire to destroy their home. But these terrible things do happen even in the U.S. It seems unthinkable that life giving items that most of us have taken for granted might become unavailable or rationed. It would be better to start to have a plan for a disaster than to try to figure it out when it happens to you and you're panicking. Start small and very basic: water, food, shelter. You can get as technical, complicated, and spend as much money as you want, or you can just stay very simple to cover the basics for survival. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I have spent several years thinking and preparing for me and my family to survive a disaster. That doesn't mean that we're ready or could survive. But if World War III were to start off with the bang of nuclear warheads, it's all over pretty much for everyone and everything everywhere. Mutual assured destruction, or MAD, MAD, sounds crazy, but it's becoming more possible every day, every minute. When considering the end of the world or the end of your own life, now is a good time to repent and ask God for forgiveness. Turn your life around and give your life to God moving forward. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Psalm 37 says, "The blameless spend their days under the Lord's care, and their inheritance will endure forever." In times of disaster, they will not wither. In days of famine, they will enjoy plenty. But the wicked will perish. Though the Lord's enemies are like the flowers of the field, they will be consumed. They will go up in smoke. There are only two sides, so decide which one you're joining. Are you joining the Lord's side or not? God provided the Israelites with everything they needed for 40 years of wandering in the desert. Even if everyone is not destroyed by a nuclear war, there are tactical nuclear weapons that could hit regional areas, or an electromagnetic pulse attack could disable the entire electrical grid and destroy all electrical equipment in the entire U.S., basically sending our way of life back hundreds of years. If you're not ready for this, you will not survive for more than a few weeks because your water, food, and heat will immediately cease to be available. No one will have any of these things in your immediate area. Your car or public transportation will likely not run. One small health goal is to decide what your immediate emergency plan is for any disaster. Don't rely on your relatives or neighbors or the government to rescue you. Remember the Israelites' hasty exit into the desert with nothing but some dough to make flatbread. Because they were God's special people, God provided water, food, and clothing in the desert for 40 years. Make a goal to think about your emergency plan in case of disaster. Decide whose side you're on, God's side or the other one. Plan ahead for a disaster so that you won't be panicked if it happens to you. Consider one small decision today about what you should do in an emergency. Till next time, this is Claire, Old Nurse on Old Nurse Knows. If life gives you lemons, make lemonade and then enjoy your lemonade. Visit me on my website at nhnursehealthcoach.org.